Well, after many different threats, we finally get to see the main threat showcased in what is by far the season's best episode yet. Hey guys, I'm Supergirl, Season 2, Episode 7, The Darkest Place, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. As you guys know, I've really been loving this season, and guys, I am so hyped for next week's crossover. I think next week's crossover is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see where they're going to go with it. I can't believe that it's 1 week from now. I feel like we've been hearing it for so long, and finally it's actually happening. And before we get into it, let's get into this episode, because this really, I think, was the episode where everything is starting to come together. I mean, after we've had, stuff going on with Alex and with James, I think, we've known that there was definitely going to be a threat out there, and we've known that definitely Cadmus was the main threat this season, but we haven't really seen a lot of them, and now it really seems like that stuff is starting to come together very well. This was a very plot-heavy episode. This wasn't an episode that was just one alien. This is an actual threat that's probably going to take place throughout the rest of the season, and I really did love this episode. Some really great scenes in this episode, definitely really great stuff overall. I would say it's the best episode so far, but I feel like the crossover is going to override it, definitely, and it's going to be a better episode. But let's get into this episode, because I definitely do want to talk about it. So we start off, and we see a very weird scene of Supergirl and John fighting. Supergirl asks why he's doing this, and John just responds that it's time for her to die. So right off the bat, we know something's going on there. But we immediately then flash back to Kara, Wynn, James, and Alex. They're visiting the still unnamed alien bar, and James and Kara are discussing Guardian's latest heroics. And I like the fact that Kara was kind of making fun of vigilantes, especially the fact that, as we know, Oliver is a vigilante, and that very well sets up that she's probably not going to take Oliver as seriously as other people did. I mean, she just does not like vigilantes. She thinks they're stupid, she thinks that they're kind of ridiculous, and she doesn't really see the point in them all. So I think that kind of very subtly set up how things are going to be in the crossover, but Kara still doesn't trust him. Alex mentioned that Guardian seems working with someone, as Guardian is always one step ahead, and Supergirl brings up that her cousin worked with a vigilante once, which, of course, talking about Batman, though that was just an awesome reveal, that we got that little inkling of Batman there. I mean, we know exactly what she's talking about. That was really cool to hear, and I know they'll never have Batman on the show, but it's always nice to hear them reference superheroes on the show that we're likely never going to see, but are still part of this universe, and just knowing the Batman's out there, I thought was really cool. But she claims the vigilantes are nuts, and Maggie then pulls Alex aside, and I like the scene between Maggie and Alex, because as we know, things did not exactly end the way that Alex wanted them to. Alex clearly liked Maggie, but Maggie kind of let her guard down, and she asks if things are okay between them, but Alex plays it cool, and when Alex goes back to the table, obviously Alex, you can tell, still likes her, but at the same time, she's trying to be cool about it, and she gets back to the table, she asks where Mon-El is, but Kara says he's probably just shacked up with some girl. But as we know, Mon-El isn't with a girl. He's actually trapped inside a cage at Cadmus, and that's what most episode folks know. Although he managed to beat up a guard and steals keys to escape the cage, Mon-El stops when the head of Cadmus, a.k.a. Lena's mom, shows up with John in tow. She says that if she tries to escape, she'll kill John, so Mon-El agrees to stay at Cadmus, thus setting up how crazy this episode really gets. So we know that there's definitely something fishy going on here. I mean, how could John be there and also at the DEO? One of the Johns is not like the other, clearly. And he's thrilled to see McGon when she stops by with Martian Brew to help him recover from last week's attack and transfusion. He suddenly hallucinates, and we get this kind of cool scene where he sees his family, but he plays it off as nothing were happening. So definitely whatever's happening to him, he's starting to get visions of what his life was like on not Daxton, that wasn't the plane he was on, whatever plane he was on, he's starting to get visions of what that plane was like, and I think that definitely was very interesting to see, and I really do care for John in this situation. He lost his family, and he's always really cared about them, and you definitely do see that here. I really did care for John in this episode. So Guardian grabs a fleeing burglar, he strings him up in the streetlight for the police, and after they drive away, a second vigilante arrives and shoots the burglar in the face, and James then arrives at work the next day. He finds that the Guardian was actually set up for the murderer of the burglar, and he tries to convince Snapper that the Guardian didn't kill him, but Snapper says that Jimmy is biased, and still not a fan of Snapper, I have to say. I get why Snapper obviously doesn't like, what's going on, but Wynn shows up to freak out, says they need to shut down Guardian, and James says they can lure out the copycat as a drug bust that night, and I love the fact that Wynn says, look, I've seen every episode of The Wire, I know this is, not The Wire, I've seen every episode of Oz, I know this is gonna end, I just really like their dynamic overall, and Wynn, has a reason to freak out. He's the one who built Guardian, he's the one who agreed to do this with James, and I like this team up between these two. James says they can lure the copycat at a drug bust that night because they know that obviously there is in fact a copycat. And at the DO headquarters, John admits to Supergirl he's been hallucinating. And again, I like these characters are coming forward to each other. They're not hiding things. And Supergirl suggests it's because he's feeling guilty because he found Mehcad and isn't alone anymore. And sure enough, the Guardian's copycat vigilante shows up at the drug bust. She kills one of the drug dealers before confronting Guardian. And the copycat wants to keep the streets safe too. But Guardian says that he doesn't kill. And the copycat flees right as police arrive, leading to the police opening fire on Guardian. Really cool scene that was, definitely. And when Supergirl flies towards the firelight, Cadmus interrupts her via a frequency that only Supergirl can hear, which is a call out to the first Superman movie. Kind of cool the way it was done. I've seen the first Superman movie. It's a great movie, and the head of Cadmus says that they have Mon-El and invites Supergirl to rescue him. So it seems that the copycat of Guardian was merely a distraction to lure Supergirl to Mon-El, and that's really when this episode gets great, is once she ends up captive by Cadmus. I thought overall that was definitely interesting to see. So she flies towards the firelight, and Cadmus interrupts her. Oh, I just read this. So she flies in the Cadmus headquarters, and John, or at least someone who she thinks is John, is there to greet her. Supergirl quickly realizes that he's actually Hank Henshaw, who survived the botched DO meeting after all, the real Hank Henshaw, and Henshaw and Supergirl immediately start fighting, but it seems that Henshaw has gotten some cybernetic enhancements during his time with Cadmus, and even though Supergirl burns off half his face, Henshaw quickly gets the upper hand. Just a really intense scene overall, the way this was done. Asking Kara about the DO because she knows that Kara's not there. She doesn't know why she's not there. Wynn says she's probably at Catco, and Wynn makes a comment about Guardian and how dangerous he is, and Alex susses out that Wynn is involved with Guardian and actually gets him to crack. She actually knows that he's hiding something. Wynn does not really do a good job with hiding things, as we know, and I like that Alex isn't stupid. She's able to find out that this was Wynn, and Alex threatens to call Kara, but Wynn convinces her to let James clear his own name. This was clearly something that James came up with. Let him do it on his own marriage. Let him tell Kara when he's ready to do that. This is not the time to do that. Now is not the time for Kara to find out what's going on. I completely understand that. I get why Wynn wants to keep this from Kara, especially with the knowledge of what Kara is going through and everything. I get why he wants to keep this from her. So, Supergirl wakes up in the cage next to Mon-El. She can't escape because the bars are actually made from Nth metal, which this was definitely very interesting. And Alex asks Maggie to lay off Guardian. And when Maggie presses Alex for details, Alex snaps at her and says that they aren't friends because Maggie pushed her to come out and then rejected her. Remember, Maggie was the thing that made Alex realize who she really was. And I would make that argument that it's kind of both their faults, that I'm not saying that being gay is Alex's fault, because it's totally not. That's who she was. She realized who she really was and what she really loved. It was a huge discovery for her. But yeah, Maggie is the thing that drew her into discovering her sexuality. That's the thing that made her this way. And now that Maggie rejected her, it's obviously very hard for Alex to deal with. But as we know, Maggie didn't reject her because she doesn't like her. I think she does like her. But Alex isn't ready for a relationship. She still doesn't understand what being lesbian is all about. She still doesn't understand who she really is. And she still has a lot of finding to do. This is not at all a finished arc, and that's something I really do like, is that there's so many more places they can go with this arc. Alex still needs to find herself. She needs to realize who she really is, if she's lesbian or if she's bi, we don't really know, and that's something that Maggie wants to confirm. She doesn't want to rush into something with someone who's very unsure about themselves. She wants someone who is sure about themselves and knows who they are, and then maybe she'll have a relationship. I think they will eventually have one at some point, just not right now, and I like that they are taking this slow. Other CW shows, they've rushed the hell out of this, and I like that they're really taking their time with this one. That's something that Supergirl's really staying out with this year, is how much they're taking their time with the show. So back at the DO, John has another hallucination, this time that one of his coworkers is a white Martian, and Alex convinces him to stand down. John orders her to give him some medical tests. We don't know what the hell is going on here, but the head of Cadmus then confronts Supergirl, and Supergirl recognizes her from Lena's office, and Supergirl discovers that the head of Cadmus is none other than Lillian Luthor, and who is Lex and Lena's mother, and Lillian claims that Superman convinced the world that Lex was evil and took up his cause, and they gave a pretty good motive to her. Here's my problem with last season. I didn't really feel like Astra had a clear motive, and I didn't feel like Non had a clear motive. Lillian, I feel like, does. Basically, Lillian explains that she brought Supergirl in because she needs to human for a little bit, because by using her solar flare ability, Lillian brings in a helmet designed to contain Supergirl's heat blast and threatens to kill Mon-El if she doesn't comply. she wants to do what she can to get Supergirl in her hands and be more powerful than her. She does not want Supergirl's powers to come in effect, and the way she's kind of getting her revenge on Lex, I think, her revenge from how they treated Lex, I think overall is very interesting. I don't think we're going to see Lex in the show, but again, it's a good way of getting these connections in a way we really haven't before, and I like the way the show's really utilizing that this year. So she's on the leg, and Supergirl reluctantly agrees. Supergirl uses the solar flare, draining her powers completely, and she's without powers for almost the rest of this episode, which isn't the first time we've seen this. We know there was an entire episode last year, one of the highlight episodes where she lost her powers, and this was just as, if not more, effective than that, because seeing Kara without her powers really was very hard to watch, I have to say. I mean, just seeing her having to be subdued, not being able to use any of her powers, was just really hard to watch. And Lillian orders her men to take Supergirl to an operating room, begin drawing her blood into a tube. And parts of this episode really did feel like a mid-season finale, which I think is interesting. We're almost to that mid-season finale. After the crossover, I believe we are in the mid-season finale. But when pieced together that the copycat killer is targeting criminals who have been freed on technicalities, he says the copycat is probably Philip Karnowski, who is an ex-Navy SEAL, whose wife was killed, and when the killer went free due to a mistrial, Wynn thinks that Karnowski actually took matters into his own hands. That definitely is something had to have happened here, and that Karnowski definitely is the copycat, that he has no doubt that he is, and I think that was definitely interesting to see. So Alex and John then test John's blood. He discovers that something is attacking his blood cells, and John has seen this before. He immediately rushes off to confront Mehcad, and he says that he knows that Mehcad is a white Martian, but Mehcad says she's not like the others. Mehcad claims she couldn't stand watching her race exterminate the green Martians and tried to save as many as she could. John's still upset, forces Mehcad to reveal her true form, and we don't fully know what's going on with her, but we know that definitely, we now know that she is a white Martian, and that she, tried to save many people and things like that, which is definitely sad to see. She couldn't stand watching her race exterminate the green Martians, everything, the way she saved them, and the way she kind of hid this from John, I think is definitely interesting overall. I like the direction that Mehcad and John are heading. I'm looking forward to seeing really where this is going to go. But Cadmus then throws Supergirl back in her cage after taking her blood. Supergirl admits to Mon-El she's actually scared. She hasn't really been this scared before, but now that she doesn't have her powers and knowing what's going to happen to her, she's genuinely worried that she might not get out of this. And Mon-El tries to tell her something about the destruction of Daxam, and before Mon-El can say anything, Jeremiah suddenly shows up and lets Supergirl and Mon-El out of their cages. So finally, after so much time, we finally have seen Jeremiah, which this was really weird to see, and it was quite abrupt, but I thought it was kind of cool that finally we got to see Jeremiah. It felt like forever since we've seen him, and I thought it was kind of cool we finally saw him here. So after pulling the bullet out of Mon-El's leg, Jeremiah leads them to safety, but he actually stays behind, and John starts fighting Mehcad, claiming he wants to avenge the death of his. So definitely, I thought that was cool to see. The whole show's been building up to this, definitely, them finding Jeremiah, them knowing what's going on with Jeremiah. In fact, I think it's been a year since Jeremiah was revealed, because last year was the Thanksgiving episode, next week's the Thanksgiving episode, so I definitely think there's something going on. I think overall that was definitely very interesting to see, and I like seeing that finally, it would seem they've actually found Jeremiah. The question is it actually Jeremiah, or is it just the copycat? We don't really know. So John starts fighting Mehcad, claiming he wants to avenge the death of his species, and because, this is the woman that killed all of his species, and John throws Mehcad to the ground. She transforms back into her human form, says that if he's gonna kill her, she wants to die as who she wants to be, which is a human, and Guardian then finds Karnowski right before he kills another criminal. After a lengthy fight, Guardian gets the upper hand. He throws Karnowski right into the waiting arms of Maggie and Alex, and Maggie lets Guardian get away before NYCPD backs up. So Alex rushes into the DEO headquarters after hearing the news about Supergirl. Supergirl tells Alex about Jeremiah, but Cadmus abandons their headquarters before Alex and the DEO can rescue him. So John has Mehcad put inside one of the DEO cells instead of killing her. Mehcad says that his blood is transforming him into a white Martian, and there's no way to stop it, that he is about to become the thing that he hates. And sure enough, John transforms his hand, and it actually is a white Martian. And this is very interesting to see. The fact that John is kind of turning into the thing that he hates, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where this is going, because I don't really know where we're headed with this. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. Then we get to the ending. We see that night, Alex, Jimmy, and Wynn, they're arriving in Kara's apartment with comfort food. It quickly becomes obvious to Jimmy and Wynn that Mon-El is actually into Kara, that he clearly does have feelings for her. And Maggie shows up to tell Alex that she's really important to her, so Alex agrees to play pool with her the next day. So it seems that maybe Alex and Maggie might actually have something going here. Maybe they'll actually bond. I don't know, again, if they're going to get together. but I think this is more of Maggie's way of showing, hey, I am your friend, I'm on your side, I'm not trying to be a bitch, I'm not trying to be rude to you, I do genuinely care about you, and I think this is Maggie's way of showing that, which I did like seeing. I really did like seeing this side of Maggie that genuinely does care for Alex, and not just one that's just, being rude to her. I like seeing some compassion from her. Then we get to the end of the episode. We see Cyborg Superman is using Supergirl's blood to infiltrate Force of Solitude to find out about something called Project Medusa, which perfectly leads us into next week's crossover episode. But let's get into this episode where I think we're going to go overall, because I think we definitely got some interesting stuff here. So overall, like I said, I think this really was the first big plot-type episode. We've had a lot of episodes this season that have had plots, but I'm talking about, like, villain-wise, we really have not had anything that big. We've had a few things here and there, but this is by far the biggest point we've had yet. I mean, virtually all this episode focused on Cadmus, who I think is the main villain this season, who I don't think is gone. I think even though they did in fact abandon their headquarters, they can set up another one. They're very powerful people. They're very rich. They're very spoiled, and, I think Lillian has enough money, and she's very wealthy, that she can just build up another headquarters as much as she desires. She can build up one everywhere. I mean, that is how powerful she really is, and the fact she was willing to take away Kara's power, I think overall is very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing really where that's going to go, what's going to happen there. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting to see why she wants to take Kara's power. It seems that she wants to subdue Kara so that way she can be less powerful, but that's what kryptonite is for. You use kryptonite against her, that weakens her. I don't know if Lillian didn't know that, but I did feel the scenes with her in here were genuinely very intense, and I really did enjoy that. The whole thing with Mon-El liking Kara, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I really don't. Maybe he has feelings for her. I don't really know. I don't want them to go in a relationship direction. I've said it before. I think something this season has done well is shown that Kara really does not need a man. She can fight for her own. She doesn't really need a love interest. And I think the show is better off with her being single. I don't want Mon-El to be a love interest. If anything, I want him to be a brother to Kara, because I think that dynamic's always been a lot of fun. So if he ends up being a love interest, I'm going to be quite upset, because I don't think that's where we're headed with Mon-El, and I don't think I really want that either. I just don't want to see these two be love interests. Just doesn't really seem like something that would make sense to me. So I don't really know if he likes her, but we'll have to see. Project Medusa, we have no idea what this is all about, but again, that is connecting us to the crossover next week, and I am so hyped for that crossover. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what's going to happen there. Seeing all the characters meeting each other, it's just going to be a lot of fun to watch. I like the way that Maggie is treating Alex, with respect, and that she genuinely is caring for her. I like the direction that that's going. I think definitely there's some really good stuff going on there. And I think while Alex feels a little bit betrayed by Maggie, I think she knows that Maggie genuinely does care about her, and I like that overall. I like that Maggie, has that compassion for Alex and seems to understand, what Alex stands for. Just really good stuff there. I enjoyed their bonding in this episode overall. I thought that definitely was really good. Even though there wasn't a ton of bonding, I like that Maggie still tried to help her, and in the end, Alex did comply. Now, let's talk about this whole thing going on with John and Mehcad, because it's very complicated. John is turning into a white Martian now, which seems to be, as we know, the thing he hates the most, because they killed his family, and they made him who he is today. But if that's where we're headed with this, that's going to be very interesting to see really where that's going to go. If we are, in fact, going to go in this direction where he does turn into White Martian, I don't really know. But I think that's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. Because, again, this is him having to inhabit the thing he hates. That's going to be very interesting to see. If he has this conflict of him dealing with that, I'm really looking forward to. And then James and Wynn. I like that someone is copycatting the Guardian right now. The question is it actually Kornowski? Wynn is under the impression that this is, in fact, Kornowski, that he was the one who did, that there really are no other suspects. But the question is, did he actually do it? Is that really the one doing it all? And also, is Jeremiah really alive? I mean, I don't know if Jeremiah is actually back. I don't know if that's actually him, or if that was just someone to bait them into thinking he's back. I really don't know. I think that definitely is going to be interesting to see. I know, of course, that we had that villain that could turn, we had that, that decoy, so I don't know if that ties in anything, but I just don't really know if Jeremiah is actually back. We'll have to see. It just seems like kind of an anticlimactic reveal. But overall, guys, really did love this episode. Really strong stuff there. I think we had some of the most intense scenes we've had in the show in this episode. I really did love it overall. We're only in episode 7, but we're already moving, and I cannot wait for next week's crossover. It's going to be something truly epic. I don't know what the story's all about. They've done a good job with not really telling us that, but I know that Kara ties into it heavily. Like, she's like the main part of all this, which makes sense because it starts on Supergirl. I don't really know how that's all going to tie in. We'll have to see, but we only have 2 episodes left for this half of the season, and then we go on break. But that's my review. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Are you looking forward to the crossover? I definitely am looking forward to it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another movie review, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.